Hey, what's up? It's Hillary. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reading some of the books on my February TBR in an effort to make some progress and check some books off. So in this vlog, I end up reading Blood Over Bright Haven for my book club and Monsters We Defy. Hello, I just finished my read of Blood Over Brighthaven. This was a reread for me, and this was for my book club, which is happening tomorrow night. Apologies that I am a little bit congested and a little under the weather, so just ignore my voice and honestly my appearance. Yeah, we're doing our best. So this was just as good the second time through. This was actually one of my top books of 2025 and did not disappoint on a reread. I feel like I was able to engage even more in some of the deeper concepts and meanings. The first time through, I was trying to understand the magic system and the politics and things generally. And this time, I already had a good understanding of that, and so I was able to sort of analyze and assess each character on a deeper level this time around. In general, Blood Over Brighthaven, if you have not read it, starts out with Sayana, who is the first female mage allowed into this mage university or academic setting. She starts to discover things about her society that are very troubling and problematic, and ultimately, she decides to confront it. This is an excellent book because it depicts the horrors of colonialism, patriarchy, people using religion as a way to absolve themselves of responsibilities, things like that. Even a little bit of environmental impact of our actions. Sayana is the main character of this story, and she is a woman in a deeply patriarchal society. Like I said, she's the first female mage allowed in, and the hurdles and things that she has to get through to even get to that point is not surprising in a patriarchal society, but man, is it enraging to just be in her perspective. I wouldn't say a love-hate, I have a like-hate relationship with Sayana. She is very self-centered, a very flawed character. She's an egomaniac. She even says that about herself in the book. She wants glory. She wants to be known, and she wants to make a name for herself and sort of shove it in all the men's faces that a woman could do what she did. I think one of the flaws of her character, and I believe that this was intentional and is reflective of, some real dynamics that happen. She was extremely aware of patriarchy and her society's views towards women and the ways that caused injustices for her. At the same time, was not focused on the racist views of her society and the ways that they put down the Quinn and ultimately were the reason that the Quinn were struggling as much as they were. She commits a lot of microaggressions towards the Quinn, both internally in her thoughts and externally in the things that she says, because her first day as a mage at this university, the other mages are, mad that she's there and sort of jokingly assign one of the Quinn janitors to be her assistant. And she refuses to act like it's a big deal. And in fact, I think she doesn't even really believe she needs an assistant. Like, she's that full of herself. But the things that she says to him as a Quinn man, it's very clear that she's brainwashed in the ways of putting down Quinn, but trying to cause reform when it comes to the way her society puts down women. So it was a little frustrating in that, she can see some injustice, but not others, choosing to stay blind to the others. Now, when she has information that she can't look away from, she does do something with it. And ultimately, I feel like her being an egomaniac she kind of had to be an egomaniac to do what she did. I'm being very vague here. To do what she did. So I understand why her character was written the way it was. At the same time, I found her frustrating for those reasons. Like I said, a like-hate relationship with her. Ultimately, to her, it all comes down to truth. And I found her arguments about that compelling, even though I did think she was still using religion to justify her thoughts and behaviors, just from a different perspective than others were using religion to justify their thoughts and behaviors. I think I'm going to leave it there. I loved this book the first time I read it, and I love this book the second time I read it, and I'm very excited for our book club discussion tomorrow. I feel like this is a great book for a book club. I'm sure other people caught things that I didn't catch on to. Like, I feel like there was so much commentary, so much social commentary in this book. I'm sure I did not catch all of the themes, and I just can't wait to hear different people's perspective. If you have not read Blood Over Brighthaven, please give it a shot. It is a standalone fantasy with a really cool magic system that's basically like coding on a typewriter that casts spells. It's really cool. So I'm glad to have that off of my February TBR. These are the books I have left on my TBR. I have started The Kingdom of Copper. I did not get very far because then I switched over to Blood Over Brighthaven to make sure I read it in time for the meeting. So I will probably keep reading this one and then do an audiobook for The Monsters We Defy. I have a ton of laundry to get through today, so I might put the audiobook on while I'm going through my laundry, and I think that will be the next one. Hello, I have a little bit of an update for you. So I have been able to make some progress on my February TBR. So I finished Blood Over Brighthaven, and then I started Monsters We Defy. And I'm about 40% into this, and I'm really loving this. It's our main character, Clara, who can communicate with spirits and is often visited by people who want to get charms from spirits to help with an issue in their life. The thing is, whenever you get a charm, you also get a trick. So there's always kind of a play on the words that is a loophole, or you might get someone to fall in love with you, but then you'll never be in love with them as the trick kind of thing. So this powerful spirit visits Clara and offers her her freedom from her curse if she can steal this special ring from the wealthiest woman in the district. Now, she really wants to get rid of her curse, which we don't actually know what it is yet. And so she gets together a group of people who can help her pull off this heist. A lot of them also have curses, as well as her roommate. And they try to steal this ring from this woman at a party when she's wearing the ring. Now, someone else at that party was also trying to steal the ring, and they actually went to grab the ring off of her finger and immediately dropped dead. So Clara's realizing whenever you touch the ring, you die. So she summons the spirit and gets a little bit more information about what exactly this ring is, how do I steal it, and why were other people after it. So a group of them come together and start to make a plan, because it turns out that Clara is actually the only one who can get the ring off her finger. And that is as far as I have gotten. I'm loving the atmospheric writing of this. It is Prohibition era in Black Washington. So, 1920s, we're going to speakeasies and theaters and things like that. I'm loving how there's some mystery, like, what's the deal with this ring? What is her curse and her trick? In fact, there's several characters who we haven't fully learned what their tricks are. Some of them we know their curses, but not their tricks. Another aspect of the mystery is that people are going missing. People, they keep referring to them as afflicted people. So people who are poor, who are less likely to be noticed to be missing, are just going missing. They're vanishing and no one has seen them. And so there's also the mystery of figuring out what's happening to them. Where are they going? And is it something to do with magic? Why they're disappearing? The male main character is a very handsome jazz player, and his curse is that he can make people feel exactly what he wants them to feel through his music. And it's sort of like people are completely in awe of him. And so the trick with that is that he doesn't really have friends. He doesn't really have anyone who is relating to him on a personal level. It's all, very like treating him like an idol. So that's the male main character's story. And so with him being a jazz musician, we're going to jazz clubs and speakeasies and things like that. It's a lot of fun. I'm really liking the vibes. I'm really loving the atmosphere, and I'm feeling pretty invested in these characters, and I want to know what is going to happen to them. So I'm going to keep on reading and see how much I can get through before bed. Hello again. I am happy to update that I have finished Monsters We Defy, and I actually loved this one. This is a historical paranormal mystery that involves a heist, and it is set in Prohibition era Black Washington. And actually, at the end of the book, there's an author's note where she talks about how her inspiration for the main character was a real person, Carrie Johnson, and she found a Washington Post magazine article called The DC Race War of 1919 and the Forgotten Story of One African American Girl Accused of Murdering a Police Officer. So that is definitely worth checking out, because we basically learn that Carrie Johnson and her father were at home when police officers broke into their home. They hid under their bed, and the police officers found them in the bedroom, shot at them, and she got a hold of a gun and in self-defense shot one of the police officers and killed him. They fired shots and the police fired back, injuring both father and daughter. They lived. Detective Harry Wilson died. 18 bullet holes were left in the door to Carrie's bedroom. Carrie Johnson, Breonna Taylor. The comparisons jumped to mind immediately. Cops in her bedroom, an exchange of gunfire. This incident took place over 100 years ago, but it also happened yesterday. And there's little reason to believe it won't occur again tomorrow. So afterwards, a jury convicted Carrie of manslaughter. They didn't allow her to plead self-defense, but eventually they gave her a new trial and did allow her to plead self-defense. And then at the age of 19, she was freed from jail and then disappeared from history. So our main character in Monsters We Defy was Clara Johnson, and she can see spirits. She has always had the sight ever since she was young. And we start off this book realizing that her mother has passed away, but her ghost is often with her. She can speak to all kinds of spirits, including enigmas. The enigma who originally granted her her charm and also her trick comes to her and says, I need you to steal this ring, and in exchange for the ring, I will free you from your charm and your trick. Now, another thing that's going on in this book is that people in town are going missing, and it's often poor people or people who are most likely to not be noticed that they're gone. Like, she kind of realizes this is happening because a few times she hears somebody saying, hey, where's so-and-so? He never showed up for work today, or other scenarios like that. And so that kind of develops this overarching mystery of what is happening to the people who are going missing. And it ultimately is tied to the ring heist. Something really cool about this book is that the magic system is inspired by African myths. So that was really interesting to read about and just, really refreshing. This book is set on Black Broadway, and so there's a lot of characters who are, various members of the theater. We've got an opera singer, jazz musician, like I already said, and things like that. And we are visiting speakeasies and very atmospheric locations. I really loved this. I learned something new reading this book. And I also learned something new because now I know who Carrie Johnson is, and let me tell you, I will never forget who Carrie Johnson is. Yeah, this was a very successful reading vlog. I got 2 books done off of my February TBR, and both were excellent. So I'm gonna wrap up the video here. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so you can catch my videos in the future. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you next time. Bye.